talks about identity and can you ever be comfortable if you're not living out your authentic self? If you're having to lie to people about who you are and what you want and to never be yourself, is that a good place for somebody to be? I think. My name is Sophie Hannah and this is the CINE vlog, which is a vlog all about films, film reviews and just everything to do with films. And today I'm talking about Rocketman, which is the new musical biopic about the life of Elton John. Now my initial thoughts about the film is that it was a good film. It was a good, enjoyable film, it was a solid film, and I'm going to tell you all of the reasons why. Now the story of Elton John, if you don't know it, and I don't know how much of it I was familiar with it, but it talks about a young boy who has a really troubled childhood. He's really insecure because of various family situations, but he is a child prodigy at playing the piano, music, singing, and he really follows his dream to becoming the superstar Elton John that we all know him as. He also struggles with his homosexuality and really defining who he is and what he wants and who he wants. And then it takes us on to a darker period in Elton John's life where he was a drug addict and an alcoholic, someone who suffered with bulimia, a sexaholic, someone who was finding every way that they possibly could to cope with difficult times in their life and a difficult childhood. And this really uses Elton John's songs to really punctuate different periods throughout his life. That's a film in a not so small nutshell. In terms of the pros, now number one for me would have to be the music, of course. Elton John has some wonderful songs, some absolute classics. Your Song, Benny and the Jets, Saturday Night, So Hard to Say Goodbye. Like, he has some really great songs and the film just reminds you about why you love Elton John songs. I also liked how some of the songs were choreographed, and especially Saturday Night, It's Alright. Like, I really loved it. It was just fun and it was ferocious and there was a lot of dancing and singing, and there is that in the opening scene as well. And towards like the end of the film, or towards the middle actually, you don't really get as much as the choreographed scenes of like music and dance together, but where they were included, for me they were some of the strongest parts of the film. Obviously I have to mention Taron Egerton, who plays Elton John in the film. He's really good in this film, really solid. I think he really catches the nuances of the character. So this guy who is extraordinarily talented, fantastic singer, but also has this real side of insecurity and shyness that he really has to temper with this stage performer that he is. And the two don't merely mix well together in general in life, and I guess that's why you see him fall apart so much, because he can't find a way to kind of knit together who he was trying to become. But I think Taron Egerton is really good in that, and you really resonate with him. There were some bits where he was just saying a line and his eyes were welling up with tears, and it really choked me up. So I really liked that, and I thought that this is one of the strongest performances that Taron Egerton has ever given. Also, he's actually singing all the songs himself. He didn't actually mime to Elton John's voice. Like, he's never gonna match Elton John's voice. Like, Elton John is like great, like he has such a wonderful voice, but he does a really solid job, as do all the Eltons in the film. I think the cast in general were also very good. In the film you had Jamie Bell, Richard Madden, Bryce Dallas Howard, like actors who are just very good within their field, who make solid films, and I think that really helped to make the film like connect with an audience. In terms of the cons, so I definitely think the film started a lot stronger than it ended. I think it really started off with these really great musical numbers, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is actually really good, it's going really well. But then it really shifted more into like the ballad sides of the songs, and I'm not sure that every song was needed. I've heard some people saying like it didn't know what to be, a musical or biopic. I think it was both, but maybe it didn't really commit to the musical part all the way through. I think there were some really dramatic plot lines that they wanted to center on, and I don't know if the music really fell away at those parts, but I think that it wasn't as consistently strong from beginning to end. Also, I felt that some of the characters were one-dimensional. Now let me explain that, because I said the actors were like a real pro of the film. The actors were strong, but I don't feel like their script material was as strong as it could have been, because you have great actors in this who have proven themselves in films and TV and all over, but I felt like the characters were just either good or bad. So you have his mom and you have his dad and you have one of his first boyfriends. They were either completely good or they were completely bad, and I just felt like that's not really realistic to how people are in real life. Elton John and his husband David Furnish were very heavily involved in the making of this film, so they were executive producers, and there was probably maybe only so much that Elton John wanted to reveal about himself. I felt that the way that his parents were portrayed and people in his life, I think that was down to maybe how he remembers them or his very real experience of them, and I'm not knocking that whatsoever, but I just felt like maybe this film was definitely from Elton John's point of view rather than speaking to maybe various people to get a real understanding of how everybody saw everything at the time. Also, I felt the plot was a little bit formulaic. Now, whereas I did enjoy this film, you knew where it was going and it's a film you've seen before. So the musical artist who has a difficult upbringing, who gets into drugs, and you know he was going to have a massive fall and you know that he was going to rise again and get back up. But I just felt like it was a bit predictable. It was a bit predictable in that sense, and I felt like a film like Ray, which is also like a musical biopic, probably handled things a bit more gritty and a bit more real. Like you really saw Ray Charles, the good in him and the bad in him, and I felt like in this film you didn't really get as much of that. You knew what they wanted you to think about certain characters, maybe rather than what they were actually like, but who knows, only the people who were there at the time. Now, in regards to what to take away from this film, I think the number one thing would be that fame doesn't cure. It only amplifies what was there before. To have that sort of pressure on you, to have that sort of focus on you, you need to be someone who's internally and emotionally quite strong, and if you're not, then fame will break you, because there's a lot of people wanting things from you. You don't know who's genuine, who's not. I really like the idea of exploring that in this film, but it's something that we've seen before, but it's something that stood out to me in this film as well. Also, the idea of protecting childhood and just how important it is to make sure that children aren't neglected and they're looked after and they're loved and they receive all these things that might not be tangible, but give them an inner self-confidence and a sense of security that the world can't really shake. Also, it talks about identity and can you ever be comfortable if you're not living out your authentic self? If you're having to lie to people about who you are and what you want and can never be yourself, is that a good place for somebody to be? Elton John really struggled with his sexuality in the film and not finding anybody who he could rely on or talk to or be loved and accepted by. You saw how much of a toll that took on him, and it just reminded me of how important it is to be those safe places for people. Whether you agree with them or not, people need to be loved, they need to be supported in order to live their very best life and be comfortable with whoever it is that they are. Now, in terms of ratings, I like to rate my films according to burgers because I love them, and with this film, with Rocketman, I think it had some good elements, strong elements, but it also had some elements that just never really hit or just didn't really carry all the way through. And because of that, I would give this film 3 burgers. I think it's a good film, it's a solid film, it's enjoyable, it's a burger that you should definitely try, you're not gonna regret it, but I don't think it's like a musical that you're gonna be talking about forever. And I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, in like 20, 30, 40 years, if anything ever happened to Elton John and he wasn't immortal, they'd probably make another biopic about him, and I'd be very interested to see that as well. But yeah, this is a solid film and it's definitely worth a watch. Now, you know I always love to end my vlogs with a question, and today's question would be, what has been your favourite musical biopic? I think for me, it would probably have to be Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do With It with Angela Bassett. That for me is a absolutely fantastic film. Angela Bassett should have won an Oscar for that film in the year that she was nominated. She is just standout, it's superb. I cry every single time that I see that film. It's so gritty and the performances are amazing. The script is strong and like it works on all levels. If you haven't seen it, obviously I'm very much promoting that film. But what has been your favourite musical biopic? Please let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Just press the red button so you can see all of the videos that I'm uploading about films or anything else, and don't forget to press the bell for notifications so you can be the very first to know when anything has been released. Don't forget to like this video, to share it, to follow my journey on social media as I try to watch 100 films in 2019. Let's see how that goes. But until the next time, I'll be seeing you soon.